It's probably the most famous board game of all time, a family staple that has been featured in films, songs, TV shows, video games, pretty much everything in between. It's a family staple that has caused as many breakups as it has breakdowns. It's a game about property, about landlords, about house prices, topics which are somehow more relevant now than they were when it was invented, but is Monopoly actually good? Here's a fun fact for you. Did you know that Monopoly was actually designed to be a cutting social commentary on how landlords are bad? A withering expose of how the landlord gets his money and keeps it. Of course you do, it's the Super Mario Bros. 2 was originally Doki Doki Panic of tabletop trivia. But what's interesting is that the blueprint of Monopoly was there in Elizabeth Magee's 1904 Landlord's Game. You get money for completing a circuit of the board, you went to jail, and won by bleeding your opponents dry of all their money by charging them rent. The key difference is that Landlord's Game explicitly frames this as a bad thing. And board game manufacturers Parker Brothers also thought the same thing, declining the option to publish Magee's Landlord's Game, citing it as too complex and too political, which also sound like YouTube comments in 2020. Magee did sell copies of the game locally though, and it became popular enough that people started to create their own versions of it, making changes over the next 30 years like adding chance cards for a bit of spice, changing the name of the game to Monopoly, but crucially changing the message that capitalism equals bad to
Yay, capitalism!
Landlord's Game was always dog eat dog, and being mean to your fellow player was the order of the day, but in Monopoly you're not chastised for doing this, you're rewarded. And speaking of not being challenged for your behaviour, one man who made some major changes to Landlord's Game was Charles Darrow. He didn't just add some bits of colour to a neighbour's homemade version of the game, he also crucially added a copyright logo and his name. It was as ruthless and opportunistic as, well, Monopoly. It was this version of the game that caught the attention of Parker Brothers, who optioned the rights to publish it in 1935, 3 decades after rejecting Landlord's Game. They went on to sell 2 million units in the US alone the following year. 85 years later, a Monopoly isn't just a board game, it's an icon. It's the board game. Phrases like get out of jail free card are part of our everyday lexicon. This version here is set in London, but there are loads of cities, countries, even universities that have their own copy of the game. Sports team, the Olympics, dogs, Disney, Marvel, motorbikes, comic books, bands. Virtually every franchise on the planet has their own version of the game. I mean, for f***'s sake, Sonic Boom has its own version. It's a yearly McDonald's tie-in that was once corrupted by the Mafia. No, seriously, go look it up. Seemingly off the success of Battleship, there's a movie version of Monopoly in the works with Kevin Hart. They even released a socialism version of Monopoly that was meant to be a parody but ended up being a bit of a cell phone. The point of the game is you can't win and vegans are dumb because
Yay, capitalism!
There's deluxe things, millennial things, cashless things, stranger things. It's an unstoppable force. Now, it would be easy to paint Parker Brothers as the bad guys in this scenario, but they did eventually find out about Landlord's Game while they were trying to patent Monopoly. And they paid Magee $500 for the rights to Landlord's Game with the promise that they would release it in stores, which they did in 1939, making around 10,000 copies, barely selling any, and destroying the rest of the stock. Still $500 for inventing the most popular board game in the world and creating a multi-billion-dollar empire is better than a kick in the knackers, eh? Part of the genius of Monopoly is that it's very simple to explain to new players. You win by making the most money by acquiring property around the board and charging players to use it. You roll your dice and you move your cute little marker and you land on a space, and if it's not been purchased, you can then purchase it. You then add that to your ever-growing portfolio, and when you've got a full street, you can then build a property upon it, because then you can charge people more money for using it and get a bit more extra cash out of Auntie Marisha. Fun fact though, there's a rule to Monopoly that most players either don't know or just forget. You see, if I land on a property that no one has previously bought and I don't buy it, it then goes up to auction for the rest of the players. It's amazing that so many people play Monopoly wrong and accidentally make the game longer than it really needs to. It's one of the few games that players have hacked and have actually made worse. That's not the only rule that people get wrong though. You don't have to complete a full circuit before you start buying property. And free parking, that doesn't get you the cash in the middle. That cash is supposed to go to the bank. Free parking's meant to be a place where you just have a look at what you've got. Oh, and you can collect rent while you're in jail, for the record. And because of these rules, the most common complaint about Monopoly is that the game lasts forever. There are countless stand-up routines and scenes in movies and films that make jokes about the fact that Monopoly tears relationships apart because it never ends. But if you actually play the rules properly, is Monopoly actually good? I took this question to the great equalizer of online discourse, Twitter, and out of the nearly 5,000 votes, 67.7% of the replies said yes, Monopoly is actually good. And the replies to this poll tell a very interesting story.
It's one of the games I can play with my family and everyone gets it.
I have multiple versions of the same game just with different skins, be it Big Bang Theory, Pokemon, Disney, Pixar, Xbox or Switch. It's a way of causing family divisions with incredible fun.
It's a good game that's bad for relationships.
I really enjoy a good game of Monopoly, but it takes way too long to finish, usually leading to boredom and/or arguments.
It is a game that ruins friendships and families. That's what's fun about it.
If you don't want to continue relationships with your friends, yes.
There's this running theme of playing with family and friends, probably because it's the one board game that everyone and their auntie Marisha has played. People have got nostalgic memories of it. And it's interesting that there are some people who will argue that it's a good game, but only if you play it with the correct rules, while there are those who will argue that it's only good if you play it with the house rules. Some people think that the correct rules aren't complex enough. Some people will tell you that the house rules slow the pace down and extend the game out. The only constant bit of feedback I had from that Twitter poll is that the elimination mechanic is bad. But why trust the opinions of people online when I can play Monopoly with real life people? And to do that, I've come to one of my favourite places in London, Draughts, to play a game with friends. Let's play Monopoly! Yay! Yeah? No, come on, let's play Monopoly! Joined by Isaac, Laurie, and Blair. Yes, and I am playing as the Penguin, the new character, I think.
A new character. He's got a really rich backstory.
Starting with a chance.
Starting hot with a chance. You have been elected chairman of the board. Play each player £50.
Oh, cheers, mate. That's great.
What? Right. Okay, so that was my first go.
Is it this way?
Play on the left? Yeah.
10.
Who are you?
I'm the dog. I am the Scotty.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
We can't reach.
10. Just visiting.
Just checking out the joke.
Yeah. All right.
It's a hot game
Very,
so far.
very exciting. Chance.
Just give me money, you goddamn piece of game.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Oh, what is it?
Take all of the $100 bills.
This is the one I was talking about.
No, seriously.
Wait, are we throwing it in the air?
It's a money grab.
When can we grab? When it hits the table or just
No.
in the air?
And,
You
wait.
can only grab when it's in the air. You can't grab
In
it off
the
the
air.
table.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. They bunched.
No trades, guys. Trades are done. You all had your chance. I am a dictator now, and I will not hide that. Yes!
Why is that a card?
I feel like this could be the end of all the going. 5, please.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh my God, Isaac! Oh my God!
A turnaround in fortune.
Wow!
Wow.
How's your heart
It's a
doing?
rags to riches story.
How's your heart doing?
Well, it's actually it's a riches to rags to riches story.
That was
You're
6,
basically the Wolf
right?
of Wall Street at this point.
I literally now have nothing.
Oh
I have nothing. Although I feel like I've never really had anything in this game.
Oh, and you're in the danger zone as well.
I know. I think this might be the end of me. At least I'll pass go now, but... 4.
Alright, that is
I'm going to have to just give you everything I have and that's it.
Yay! I am so sorry. That's no fun for you, but lots of fun for me.
Luke Owen, is Monopoly actually good?
No.
It's just slowing me down, isn't it?
6,
You inherit £100.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which one's
What
that?
wasn't dancing through?
Marlborough Street.
That is 750.
Okay, so I don't even think I.
Wait, no,
Even if
hotels.
I know, but even if I sold all my, so you can only sell them at half the price, right?
Yeah.
So if I sold,
So you got 15 things to sell right now.
yeah, so I can sell £225 worth. Oh, no, if I sell all of it, then it's 250 quid, and then I would, because it's.
Do they only cost like 50?
25,
Yeah, they're only 25. So like, if I sold the hotels, sold 3 hotels. Sorry, I could only make 325. How much was it? 700.
750.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600, 700.
Oh my god, it's enough.
Was it 750?
750. Thank you.
111. Nope, I'm done.
That is 950.
1, 2, 3, 5, 751. And that's me done. Do I have anything else? Nope. There you go.
So you got to make some choices now about your.
You know, I can just go and stretch my legs now. Yeah, you know, it's oddly liberating, and it's not even bitterness.
About 4 times to build up enough funds to put hotels back on my 3 locations that I own in order to start generating even. Feels fitting to die to Pall Mall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is it.
What is that?
Yeah, that's it,
Is
yeah.
that
I think we're done.
That is 950.
Give me the sweet release of death. Alright.
And the terrible thing about it also is that like you don't feel satisfaction from winning.
No,
I'm
you
just
just
like,
feel
oh
like
my
you
god,
just
it's over.
one of my £900 debt.
That's it.
That's it. Game over. Oh my god.
Well done.
I thought I would be excited to win, but no.
I had a terrible first few rounds where I just went round and didn't land on anything you could buy or anything unoccupied. So I was so far behind in the beginning of the game. I basically just clung on for dear life, like a small business owner, until the very end of the game, in which the mega corporation that was Blair eventually swallowed me whole.
I was actually out of the game longer than I was playing the game. It's long.
When Luke was out of the game officially, it definitely made us all feel, at least for me, it made me feel like I really need to just get this going. I started rolling my dice really quickly, like the moment that I knew it was my turn. And yeah, you just feel bad. You don't want your friends sitting there just watching. And so you feel a bit like, okay, let's get a move on. And then that move on took 2 hours.
When someone goes out, it really changes the game because the person they lose to gets all of their stuff. And if they're in a position to gain it all back, then it really changes the tide of the game, and everyone else just kind of suffers.
It's a game that drags out each moment of joy for about 2 hours until the point you get to a point where you're just like, this should be something I'm proud of achieving, or I should feel like this moment is worthwhile, but it actually always just feels like slowly bleeding out in a sort of death by 1,000 cuts kind of way.
Do I want to play Monopoly again? No.
I had a terrible time playing Monopoly, and it's not just because I lost and I was out first. It's because I was out first about an hour into the game, and the game lasted 3 hours. And those 2 hours were just the other 3 players swapping money back and forth. No one really gained an advantage. No one was ever really in any major peril. We did all agree that me going out added a certain level of drama early doors, but the problem is that drama then took 2 whole hours to end. So why has Monopoly endured?
I think Monopoly has endured for as long as it has because we all grew up playing it, we all know it. It is a game that is pretty much in every household. If you have a board game, it's probably Monopoly.
There's something really sort of, I don't know, reassuring about getting out your Monopoly. The start of the game is always really fun, collecting all the properties and building a little empire. It's towards the end it seems to just not come to a finish quick enough.
Yeah, there's a nostalgia element to it. I think there is a very kind of take that element to it when you're kind of doing one thing over the other. Me and my family, we end up alliance, like me and my one sister will become an alliance against my other brother and sister, and that becomes kind of a game within a game.
For most people, when you're playing it, it gets to the point where it sucks. But there'll always be one or two people who are riding high and really enjoying it. And especially with house rules, you don't get the awkward slog where like nothing's really happening. You get one person who bullies everyone, and they will land on free parking, and they'll continue to bully everyone, and it's game over. Everyone's unhappy.
I mean, Monopoly's great, and it's obviously never going to go away. But I guess my one bit of advice, even to myself, would be next time I play it, make sure I play it by the exact rules that are in the rule book, rather than the sort of rules that I grew up learning, which make it go on way too long.
It all comes back to that Twitter poll we referenced earlier. Monopoly to people isn't about the game itself, it's about who you play it with. It's about the memories the game has created. It's about those never-ending games that you tell stories about at Christmas dinner. If Monopoly was released now, it would be destroyed by the tabletop gaming community because it's not a fun game to play. It's long, it's arduous, it's got bad mechanics, and the elimination of players alters the mood for everyone else playing. Meaning, when all is said and done, no one has a good time. And as you saw in the game that we played earlier, those last 2 hours were the same moves being done over and over and over again. Blair winning was inevitable, but it took the length of a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to get there. But Monopoly wasn't released today, it was released 80 plus years ago when people were simple idiots. And because it's now in the cupboard of every simple idiot around the world, it's become a staple of quality family time. Going over the replies to that Twitter feed, people reveled in the fact that it caused arguments. People loved the idea that it breaks up families and it takes ages to play. But even with that all in mind, I cannot ignore the game that we played in Draughts and those 3 bored faces that just wanted a game to end. Is there really any argument against that? Is Monopoly actually good? No, it's f***ing rubbish.